you were competing with icons like Michael Jackson. That was who you're competing against.
Michael Jackson,
What
Mariah,
was that
Carey,
like? Yeah.
It was, but with Live and Learn, we kind of already knew, even before we sent it to him, we knew what it was. I'm not seeing me on, on TV, on Jay Leno.
They become one of the hottest hip-hop groups in the country, performing their hit Live and Learn, Joe Public.
On Arsenio Hall, or
performing their hit Live and Learn. Give it up for Joe Public.
Here we go. You got to live and learn. I'm not seeing it. I'm no star. What are you talking about? Right. But like I said, it's totally different when you show up someplace and people are screaming and grabbing you and like that. And then you're like, I guess this is real. So ended up playing guitar for Ride or Die for Jay Z. Ended up playing bass for Nas, featuring Ron Isley, believe it or not, with Project Windows. Yeah. Drake's a rapper that can sing. We were singers that rapped. Like I said, right. I'm no MC at all. Right. I'm not gonna be winning no battles nowhere.
The evolution of a hitmaker, Joe Public's Kevin Scott, on his journey from stage to studio. In this podcast episode, listeners will get an inside look at the incredible journey of Kevin Scott, his early love for music, his rise with the iconic New Jack Swing group Joe Public, and his collaborations with legends like Nas and Jay Z. If you're a music producer or artist looking for fresh sounds, check out Kevin Scott's Native Instruments Sound Pack, Electric Touch, available now. And for fans of smooth, soulful music, don't miss his latest track, Hey Boog, I Can't Lie, 420 Love, streaming now on all major music platforms. In today's episode, we sit down with Kevin Scott, a renowned musician best known for his work with the legendary New Jack Swing group Joe Public. Kevin takes us on a journey from his early childhood experiences with music to his rise in the industry, highlighting the key moments that shaped his career. We'll explore how Kevin's passion for music led him to master the bass, his time playing in local bands, and how those experiences eventually evolved into the formation of Joe Public. He shares insights on what set their music apart, their breakthrough success with Live and Learn, and what it was like competing on the charts with icons like Michael Jackson and Mariah Carey. Kevin also discusses his collaborations with Nas and Jay Z, detailing how those opportunities came about and the role networking played in his career. We'll talk about his recent projects, including his work with AI-driven music technology, and how he continues to evolve as an artist in today's ever-changing music landscape. Lastly, we'll touch on Kevin's advice for aspiring musicians, the importance of understanding the craft of mixing and production, and his thoughts on how accessibility in music production has changed the industry.
My name is Dwayne Elahi, founder of ProAnywhere.com, author of the book, The Tech Entrepreneur's Pocket Guide, available at ProAnywhere.com/book. I've been featured on the cover of the Top 100 Innovators and Entrepreneurs magazine. At ProAnywhere, we will make you a pro no matter where you're located in the world through online training. We cover coding and AI, computer graphics and animation, and video and audio music production. We also provide social media marketing services through our ad agency. If you're interested in one-on-one consulting and want to work with me personally, visit proanywhere.com/private.
If you want to stop wasting hours setting up your mix sessions from scratch and finally get to the creative part faster, take a look at Music Mixology templates. With it, you'll get ready-to-use mixing templates for Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Cubase, Studio One, and Ableton Live, designed using only stock plugins, so you don't need any extra software. Just drag and drop your stems and start mixing immediately. And the best part? Not only will this streamline your workflow, but it also comes with the Music Mixology series, walking you through the exact setup so you can recreate it in any DAW in the future, giving you full creative control over your sound. Get instant access now and start mixing like a pro. If you are interested, visit proanywhere.com/music. Today's guest is Kevin Scott. Kevin is a renowned musician, bassist, and producer, best known for his work with the legendary New Jack Swing group Joe Public. He played a pivotal role in Joe Public's hit song Live and Learn, which became a defining track of the early 90s. Beyond Joe Public, Kevin has collaborated with hip-hop icons, playing bass on Nas' Project Windows, featuring Ron Isley, and guitar on Jay Z's Ride or Die. He has also worked with top industry producers and contributed to major projects in R&B and hip-hop. Kevin continues to make music, experimenting with new sounds, production production techniques, and emerging AI music technology. His Native Instruments sound pack, Electric Touch, is available now for producers looking to enhance their sound. Fans can also check out his latest track, K-Boog, I Can't Lie, 420 Love, streaming on all major music platforms. Kevin, welcome to the podcast. So here with us is Kevin Scott. Hi.
Yes, sir. What up? What up?
Can you tell us about your early life and how you first got into music?
So for me, it was the thing I can remember most is just being like this little kid, and like my mom had this this big record, like they were like these big wooden things with speakers in them and whatever, and I know there's a little red light on it, but anyways, I would just be sitting there with my head on it, just playing records. I didn't know who the records were, but I just know the music just made me feel good. It just made me feel like, wow, I could just listen to this all day. And that's what I would do. I listen to that, listen to that, listen to that. As far as learning how to play, that was because of my brother. The first reason was because of what he told me not to do, which was don't touch my So, he was like, do not touch. I was like,
Right.
why would I do that? You said don't touch it. So I'm definitely not going to touch it, and obviously I did. So one day he came home and he found me, just one string in it. Cause I was just, that's all I knew was one string. And he was like, oh, so you want to know how to play? I was like, yes. He's like, all right. So that's when he proceeded to start teaching me. But his method was more like Mr. Miyagi style.
Right.
Where it was, okay, here's the song, this is how it goes. And this all was by ear. I never learned how to play by reading music until I went to school, but that was for saxophone, believe it or not. But anyway, he would, we would learn the song, and then he would be, all right, we're gonna go over it. If you mess up, this is what's gonna happen. And he would just pluck me right, bam, right in the forehead. So every time I play, anytime I messed up, pluck in the forehead, so that made me get real good at playing and not messing up.
Right.
So, and like I said, that kind of started me on my journey to being a bass player,
Right.
and like I said, I just kept doing that, kept playing. And like I said, I went to school, but when I went to school, I ended up not playing bass. I played at first trombone, and then I went to saxophone. And my music teacher was like, you are really good at this, for someone who's never done it. And I was like, oh, okay, but I liked playing, but then they ended they were like, oh yeah, we don't have enough money for music anymore. So Mr. DePasquale ended up being our music teacher, who was also the math teacher, which that wasn't good. So, that kind of ended my in-school music career per se, right? But some guys that were living on the street over from my street, they had heard that I could play bass. They didn't even know about me playing in school, but they had heard, because like I was this little kid that everybody was like, oh my gosh, you ever see this little kid play? He is insane, And to me, I didn't really care because I wanted to play football.
Right.
Because I can remember times, being in my basement, and my stepfather would make me sit down there and play bass so his friends could see me play bass.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, dude, I am sitting there full out crying, and playing the blues, mind you, full out crying, playing the blues, but still not messing up, and because that's where I was like, and I actually stopped playing bass for a couple of years after that, because that was like, I was like, no more of that, man. So I stopped playing, but like I said, a street over, these guys were, getting a band together, and they heard that I played. No, they didn't know that I played sax, as a matter of fact. And that's why they came to get me. They didn't know I played bass.
Right.
But they knew I played sax, so I went over there and I was part of the horn section, we had a sax and a trumpet and a trombone, and, we was, like being this little funk band, They had a bass player, and me and him are really good friends now. But they had a bass player, and he was, a little spotty as far as showing up,
Right.
like some days he's there, some days he's not, some days he's there, some days he's not, and they was like, man, what are we gonna do with Fred? So I was like, if you want, I'll play. It's like, you play bass? I was like, yeah. So I started playing. They were like, so I was like, okay. And they was like, and next thing you know, they're like, hey, you want to be the bass player? And I was like, what about Fred? They was like, what about Fred? I was like, sure. So that's when I ended up becoming the actual bass player. Me and Fred, we're still really good friends to this day, And like I said, all this is going on in Buffalo, New York, because that's where I'm from, So, like I said, we were just trying to find, like small venues and things like that, like Juneteenth Festival and, anywhere that would let us play, so we could get better, I guess is what we were trying to do,
Right.
And like I said, we did that. And, after a while, the pieces started changing in the band where, that person left because he wasn't this and he didn't want to do it anymore or, whatever. And it slowly started morphing into Joe Public, because what happened was like me, like the guitar player, JR, he was like one of the last people to actually join the group, because we went from like the ice band and we were like this group called Attention, but he was one of the last musicians that we brought into the group, and it was still 6 of us then though, but like I said, after a while, it just ended up being us 4, that was in Joe Public now, and that would be me, Jake, JR, and Dwight, and it would just be us 4. And that kind of was when we said to ourselves, you know what, we don't want to do this playing these local venues and stuff. Like, we don't want to do that. We want to, we want to take our chance on, getting out there and make, quote unquote, making it, right?
Right. So
that's what we focused on. We stopped playing live. We just focused on just going to like JR's mom, his mom, she had another house that he stayed in. Right. So we would all go there. And that's where our studio was. And that's where every day we were there playing Street Fighter, Tecmo Bowl, and making music. I mean, and spades and playing spades every single day, and that's what we would do, and we kind of got discovered at this battle of the bands, because somebody did this big battle of the bands in Buffalo, and, some people were invited and they liked us, and that was the guy who ended up becoming our manager, this guy named Lionel Joe. And he ended up becoming our manager. And that's when we started, getting, I would say, indoctrinated into the music business, kind of learning things about the music business, because we didn't know that we was green as, just green, just knew that we wanted to make it. That was it, and like I said, we just kept writing songs, kept sending him songs. He was like, that's trash. He's like, that's pretty good, not quite there yet, But with Live and Learn, we kind of already knew, even before we sent it to him, we knew what it was, because, you like, even now when you hear something on the radio, if it sounds good, it sounds good. If it just sounds good, it just does. And that's how Live and Learn felt when we got done and then had a chance to sit back and just listen to it. And we were like, holy, and he said the same thing. so he started taking that around and shopping it, and that's how we ended up on Columbia, which is Sony Records now, but it was Columbia back then. And we and like I said, I'm giving you super edited form right now because we'd be here for hours if I was to just go step by step. But anyway, like I said, he shopped it around. Sony was like, yes. And we were like, yes. So then we started, going. That's when we went to New York. We kind of basically moved to New York. Then we moved to New York City and we started cutting the album. And that was, that was the Live and Learn album. That's how we did it. And like I said, we knew that the song was good, but to say that we knew it would do as well as it did, no. No, because you don't know that. You know that it's a good song, but you don't know how well it's going to do. So when it started, just blowing up. And the craziest thing about when that happens, as the artist, you really don't notice it. Because we're out there. We're every day. Every day I'm, 6 o'clock starting at radio stations until 3 o'clock in the morning at clubs. And that's just about every single day. You know, that's how our day goes from 6 in the morning till 3 in the morning. You know, so I'm not seeing me on, you know, on TV, on Jay Leno or Arsenio Hall, or I'm not seeing it. I'm there,
Hmm.
you know, but I'm there. I'm working. You know,
Right.
you're right. I'm not sitting back going, wow, look at me on Arsenio Hall. No, you know, I'm working. So, you know, but like I said, when people are calling you and saying, yo, I just saw this and I just saw that and I just saw this, you know, it's kind of, it's like I said, for me, it was kind of surreal because it's happening, but it doesn't feel like it's happening because you're working. You know, I'm working.
Right.
You know, I'm no star. What are you talking about?
Right.
You know, but like I said, it's totally different when you show up someplace and people are screaming and grabbing you and like that. And then you're like, I guess this is real. So, you know, like I said, it was like I said, it was great, man. I can't, you know, I don't have any complaints in the sense of, you know, whether it was great or not. That was great. You know, like I said, of course you learn some things in hindsight that you would probably do different and maybe even not do, you know, but you can't know those things before they happen to you. So they're happening, you know, and sometimes you don't realize it happened until later. And you're like, what? You know, because you realize this happened and it kind of just went right over your head. But, you know, once again,
Right.
hindsight, you know, hindsight is always 20/20, right?
Right. And especially if you're in it, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
see the forest from the trees, right? When you're
Yeah.
in there and when you step back and you see the impact you have on everyone else.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. And I think that's a segue for my next question. Now your impact on everyone else, right? Now you are pretty much like a milestone in the generation. Like it's a known song, it's a known moment
Hmm.
there, right?
Hmm.
So you influence, you know, the upcoming people and music even till today. But can you tell me what were some of your musical influences growing up?
Um, so I would say my first big influence was Prince
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
he did everything. He sang, he
yeah,
wrote, he produced, he played all the instruments. You know, he did it all, and it was great. It wasn't like he did it all and it was trash. You
right,
know, he did all of that, and it was really great music. You know, so that was kind of the first like big, even though I lived in Buffalo and Rick James was there. You know, and I'm not saying I wasn't inspired
right,
by Rick James because I was, because, you know, it was Rick James. He made it from Buffalo. It made you feel like, oh, that means people from Buffalo can make it, you
right,
know. So like I said, definitely not any shade towards Rick. And the crazy thing about it was Rick and Prince had this little, you know, thing that they didn't get along too great. So,
right.
you know, but like I said, it was, for me, it was Prince, you
Because he
know, and
did
like I said,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, but still mixed in that was still just music, because like music back then, everything was played on the radio. There wasn't this station plays this music, this station plays this music, this station plays this music. It wasn't like that. It was just the stations just played the best music.
Right.
So I got to hear, you know, Another One Bites the Dust, Earth, Wind and Fire, Parliament Funkadelic, Kool and the Gang. You know, I got to hear all those on one radio station because that's how the music was back then. You know, so like I
Right.
said, and that had a big influence on me as far as how I wanted to approach music. You know, because it was just so like this big melting pot of musical styles, you know. And like I said, I listened to everything. It didn't matter to me. It wasn't I only listened to this. You know, I listened to everything. Still to this day, I listen to everything because I'm still fascinated. Like me and one of my boys was talking about the fact, me and JR was talking about the fact that there's only 12 notes. That's
Hmm.
it. It's not like there's some extra notes out there that people are using. There's 12 notes, but
Right.
people are still taking those 12 notes and making great music, you know. And
Right.
that's like I said, that's the most amazing and best thing about it is, you know, you never know when it's going to be. That you just don't know, because it's nothing that you can say, oh yeah, well, he did this, he did that, and did that, and then he got a hit. It happens in so many different ways.
Right.
So like I said, influences for me were just music. I would say music itself, the biggest influence being Prince. But after that, it was still just music on a whole, whether it was, Billy Joel or whether it was Parliament Funkadelic. It didn't matter because for me, melody has always been king for me.
Right.
It's the melody. It's the thing that catches your ear. Like I was explaining to my wife, like when people remember songs, a lot of times they don't remember lyrics, but they can go, no, it went like this. Da, 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 da. That's what they can do because that's the melody that's stuck in their head, even though they don't remember the words. But melodies are great for helping you remember words because when you can remember the melody, you can remember what was sung on it. So
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, it's you did hear all these different hits on the radio, and Live and Learn was a massive hit. So when you mentioned as you went through it, it was, you're just working, so it was just like another day. It's kind of remind me of like when Iverson crossed Jordan. He said at the time he was just doing the move. He didn't realize the effect until afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, like what was it like seeing your song rise to the top of the charts, especially at that time period you were competing with icons like Michael Jackson. That was who you're competing against.
Michael Jackson, Mariah,
What was
Carey,
that like? Yeah.
It was, like I said, we went to number 4 and just every week watching it, like it's still going. It's still going.
Right.
It's still going. Right. and like I said, it's just like, you're just like, when you think of it before it happens, as you're, when we're just this group at home going, oh man, it would be so great to have a top 10 hit, right? Because of course it would be, and I'm sure everybody says that, because of course the pinnacle being it would be great to have a number 1 hit, but if you could have a top 10 hit, then especially on the Billboard 200, if you got a top 10 hit, you've got a song that's very popular everywhere, So like I said, you say that before it happens, but then when it's happening, it's kind of like like disbelief, like
right.
wow, wow, and that's all you can say is wow, and thank God, thank the Lord, thank you,
Right. No, that's amazing about that. So regarding that, like Joe Public had a unique sound that resonated with many. What do you think set your music apart from other groups at the time?
I think the first thing was the fact that we actually played our instruments.
Right.
Like all of us played the instruments that you saw us playing. We played the instruments for real. Not like, okay, pick up the bass for this video because we wanted to, we want you to look like you're playing the bass. So that, and then I could be wrong when I'm about to say what I'm about to say, but I think we were kind of one of the first singing groups that also incorporated rap.
Right.
Because it wasn't like that. TLC was still there. They were doing the same thing, singing and rapping, so it was this thing that was coming up right then. I'm not saying we invented it, but we were definitely on the forefront of groups that were singing and rapping at the same time.
Right.
So,
which is what Drake is kind of known for now, right?
Right. Well, Drake's a rapper that can sing. We were singers that rapped. Like I said, I'm no MC at all.
Right.
I'm not gonna be winning no battles nowhere.
Right.
But like I said, we were good at, making it work for what we were doing. Without making it seem like we're trying to exploit it. Like, oh, maybe we should rap because then blah 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 blah. It was nothing like that at all. It was because of our love for rap, and we already love music, but we also love, like, just hip hop was just like thriving back then. It was just, early 90s hip hop, man, please.
Yeah. Right. And over the years, like, how do you feel about the impact of Live and Learn has it had, like, over these years?
It's amazing because just the other day somebody sent my wife something because somebody did a reel on IG. And they're like, when you're standing in line and then your jam come on from back in the day, and it was Live and Learn, and I'm just like, okay, I'll take it, and it's great to know that even after all this time, people still they still like, oh, that was my joint, you know, and that's
Right.
a great thing to have, you know, when you look at in the history of music, that's a great thing to have. You know, not everybody has that where everybody's like, oh my gosh, that song, that was, you know, so
Right.
yeah,
That's
it was
great.
it's awesome, man. It's like I said, I don't have no complaints, man.
Right.
It's great.
And even afterwards, while you were still in the music business, you did collaborate with other artists such as Nas and Jay Z. You
hmm
played bass on Nas's song Project Windows,
hmm
featuring Ron Isley,
Yeah.
and also the guitar for Jay Z's track Ride or Die.
Yep.
How did that collaboration come about?
So, you know, like after Joe Public, we kind of like did like this. We didn't break up per se, but we kind of like went like that. So right before that, we had actually did a song for Tyrese too, which
Hmm.
actually did pretty decent, you know. But then after that, you know, I started working with Stevie J.
Right.
And you know, Stevie J, you know, he had all these connections because, like I said, he was with the Hitmen with Bad Boys back then. You know, so you know, I'm just hanging out in the studio with him, and he ended up doing that track with Jay Z. You know,
Hmm.
so he was like, "Yo, come in and lay something down for this." You know, so I went in. It was a real simple part. You know, did that, and I was like, "Damn, I'm on a Jay Z record." You know, and then with Nas, like I said, same thing. It was a connection from Stevie, but Trackmasters just producing duo. They were in the studio doing with Nas, and you know, Stevie was like, "Yo, he play bass. You know, y'all should bring him in." And they was like, "Come on in." You know, so I went in there, played the bass
Mhm.
for that joint for Ron Isley and Nas, and that's how it happened. You know, like I said, a lot of times it's who you know, you
Right.
know, that's what happens. Is if you know this person, know that person, and you're in the right place at the right time, will happen, and you know, you'll be like, that happened. You know, so
That's
like I said,
awesome.
it was it was great. I loved it.
It's
I
great.
loved it.
And what have you been working on lately in the music space?
Lately I've just like I actually released a song which was, you know, it was more of a okay, let me just see what happens,
Right.
you know. And like I said, it was this song called I Can't Lie. And like I said, I wouldn't say it did great. It got like 20 something thousand streams, you know, which
Hmm.
is, I was like, oh, okay, you know, and that was like, it wasn't really promoted, you know, but other than that, I've just been, you know, just still just making music because I just love making music, you know, because
Hmm.
it's just, it's such a, it's like therapy, you know. That's what it is for me. It's like therapy. It's like, okay, I need to relax. And that's relaxing for me, you know, just being, you know, in front of my computer and just trying to figure out to make it sound good, you know. That's
Hmm.
it. You know, I did this one track which was so crazy. So it's this song called Vibe. I did it for this female artist named Kiana. Um,
Hmm.
they released it. They're working it now. Um, but the crazy thing about it was, as we move on to AI,
Okay.
I took the song, I sung it, I wrote it and sung it, but I was like, this is a female song. I can't, you know. Then I found out that you could take your voice and AI will change your voice into a female voice. So I did that,
Right.
and I was like, and obviously it worked because they was like, yo, we'll take it. So you know,
So they
so
took the female version of it
well, I mean,
of your
she
couplet.
came. Then the girl came. She came here actually to my studio here, and we cut it and everything. You know, so but yeah, that was
Okay.
that's what I'm doing. And like I said, other than that, like I said, just making music, man. Because I just like I said, I just can't not make music. There's no way for me to cut that off. You
Right.
know, there's no off switch for music. You know, so
Right. And looking back at your career, what are some of the key lessons you've learned? Because you said like
um
hindsight is 2020, but you don't know
yeah
until you've done it, right? Earlier
um
on.
ask questions. If you have a question, ask the question. Don't not ask the question. You
Mhm.
know, because what are you gonna lose by asking a question? You know, no need to be a dick about it. But if you have a
Right.
question, ask a question. You know, um, read. You know, understand when somebody says, "Okay, just sign this," If you don't understand it, make sure that you have someone who does understand it and can explain it to you so that you do understand it. Try not to just sign, because like a lot of times people will be, come on, oh, we got to sign it now, man, because if we don't sign it, it's not going to get done.
Right.
And if you listen to that sentence, it's right. It's not going to happen. If it does, it's not. If you don't sign it, it's not going to get done. So don't sign it until you know what you're signing.
Right.
Don't let somebody rush you into something on some hurry up, because if you don't, it's not going to get done. Because if they want it to get done, then they'll wait for you so that you understand it, so that when you do decide to sign it, you understand what you're signing. Or when you say, nah, I'm good, you'll also know why. They'll know. Now you can tell them, here's why I'm not signing it.
Right.
So like I said, that's all. Just read, ask questions. Right. Those are going to be your friends. Those are going to be your best friends.
Right. And any advice you would give to any aspiring musician or artist who look up to you?
Don't give up on music. I know with all this AI stuff and what do they call it? Sample kits and loop kits and all that stuff. Yeah, I know that stuff is awesome. I use it, but I use it to do what I do. I don't use it just specifically for what it is. I don't get a loop and then go, that's it. Okay, I'm good. Like I said, you can still use what's going on right now, but don't give up on music. If you play, or even if you want to play, learn how to play. If you want to play guitar, learn how to play guitar, keyboard, drums, whatever it is you want to do. Learn how to do that. Don't give up on the music, because music is still, all the AI is doing is emulating what we do as musicians. So all we have to do is keep doing what we're doing, because AI can't do anything without a prompt.
Right.
They can't do anything. There's nothing that can happen without a prompt, without you saying, okay, AI, do this for me. Then it'll go, okay, I can do that. Easy peasy. But like I said, that would be my advice for any aspiring musicians. Don't give up on music, man. Music is awesome.
Right. And on that part, I mean, because you were around when radio, and again, Michael Jackson time, mid-90s, and music, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, it was a little at that level, getting on that stage and getting heard by everyone, or getting on the radio, or getting out on wax, was almost inaccessible to the normal person, right? And what would you say today? How is it like today now, with like, you have Spotify and anyone can make a home studio? I mean, you're in a home studio right now, right?
Yeah. And that's my, what I've always said is, it's the greatest thing and the worst thing at the same exact time. Because what happens is, you have this, now you can make the same quality music that people make in big, gigantic studios. You can get the same quality, as long as you got the people that have the ears to do it also. Just because you have the equipment doesn't mean you can. And then that's where the break is, because I think you get people who get the equipment and think that because they have the equipment that, okay, that's it. I'm a pro. And it's just not that easy. Like I said, there's things that you have to understand, like being an animator, right? They will go, you can't break any rules until you know what the rules are. You can't break a rule that you don't know. But once you understand what the rules are, then you can break the rules to make things work how you want them to work for you. So like I said, yes, everything is accessible to everybody, but that doesn't make you this all of a sudden super producer, super artist, super whatever, just because you have Pro Tools or Logic and Apollo Twin and some nice loops. It just doesn't. You still gotta. It still has to be good.
Right. You still have to know what you're doing and have the ear for it.
Exactly.
Right. But it is accessible, at least now.
Yeah, it's definitely accessible. And maybe that will, inspire, because that's what happens a lot of times. People get it and they realize that, oh, way harder than I thought. And then they start what I call a YouTube University. You know, they go on YouTube and they find things. Not everything on YouTube is great, but there is some great stuff on YouTube. You know, the trick with YouTube is learning how to find what's good and learning how to, you know, decipher that's not good, you know. And that only
Right.
comes with, you know, getting in there and going, oh man, this sounds worse. You know.
No,
So,
but so I always say like YouTube is good. It's great actually because
mhm.
if you think about it, probably a lot of the information or most of it is probably out there. It's just
Yeah,
it's hard to find the signal from the noise, right? Because
yeah,
anyone could put it out there, right?
yeah,
And also a platform like that is designed to be more entertaining, so they'll give you a little bit of like a hook. This is what you need, but if you want the rest of this, click here and find that, and you start going down a rabbit hole.
yeah,
Um, so, and if you don't have proper guidance, one thing about having proper guidance by someone who knows it, or you know, they could tell you exactly do this, do this, do this,
yeah.
right? Or even to guide you, like look at these tutorials specifically on this part,
Hmm.
but here's how you all put it all together.
Hmm.
So I think
But
that's yeah. Sorry, go
but
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, but they still can't give you their ears.
Right. Right.
You know, so they can tell you this, this, and this, but until you start understanding the difference of, you know, 300 to, you know, 1400, until you start understanding the difference of those frequencies,
Hmm.
it still doesn't do anything for you. You know,
Right.
then you just become a talking head. Yeah, well, just take out 300 hertz and you should be good. And it's like, well,
Right.
why? Why am I taking out 300 hertz? Oh, because this
Right.
guy said that you should take 300 hertz out here. You know, it's like, you know, so like I
Right.
said, you know, it's still a fair amount of um, trial and error that has to happen, that you have to be willing to do, that you have to take time out, you know. And I think that's one of the I think the the issues, for lack of better words, right?
Hmm.
The issues of how music is looked at now and how it was looked at back then, because now everybody wants it like that because everything is
Right.
like that. Access is this, that's what access is now. Back then it wasn't that. You had to call the studio, see how much they charge, see if you can afford it, see if they had space open, you
Hmm.
know, and then you can go and record the song, right?
Right.
And it's not like that now. Everything's instant. Okay, what is it? All right, I'm gonna send it to you in 5 minutes.
Right.
It's that simple now. So, you
Right.
know, and I think that that right there is kind of where it kind of gets a little fuzzy, because when you start to have to listen to things to make sure they are what they are, and you just want it to sound good right now, you know, you might take some shortcuts, or you might just say, sounds good enough.
Right.
You know, so
Right. Right. Yeah, but it's a good point. The fact that you have to go to the studio, because even when you're there, you have a a set amount of time. You better
exactly.
practice beforehand because that's not
Yep.
where you're trying to figure it out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely premeditated. It's deliberate at that point, right? By the time you're
Yeah.
there, it's practice, and you know for sure this is what you want. Whereas I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons to it, right? Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's accessible. You could do anything you want, but at that same time, the quality might not be there because, like you said, that's good enough. We'll put it out there,
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
If not, we'll just do another one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Right. Talking about specifically, let's say your track that we went in, and I could just talk. I have the list of like the plugins I've used, or
Mhm.
and I could go with why I went with those, and even some of them were some of your suggestions that I didn't know about beforehand, right?
Right.
So, and one of my favorite ever since, and I didn't even know it existed because I did it kind of like the old school way where I'm talking about how do you want to make a vocal cut through a track, right?
Yeah.
And it's a simple concept when you think about it, right? You can't like physics, right? Two
Mhm.
things cannot occupy the same space at the same time, right?
Right.
So if your vocals take up a certain frequency range and have a certain profile of that, right?
Mhm.
But you also have other competing sonics, such as your guitars or your
Mhm.
percussions,
Keyboards. Yeah.
keyboards, and things like that, right? Your
Yeah.
keys and things like that. Um, and even depending what you're going for, if it's maybe more hip hop or something like with a lot more bass, then you want to leave space on the low end for certain
Mhm.
things, and you might not
I remember actually some of the notes you gave me with your vocals where roll off more of my low end because you don't want to
Hmm.
hear it on
Hmm.
your stuff, right? And some mixes you do. You might want to have that in there, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I do know, okay, once I know where, and also I'm gonna mention this as well, is like when you go on choruses or do a bridge or whatnot, you might bring in more fullness of
Yeah.
the instrumentals in there, but you still want the either the vocals to sound like they're at the same level, even though you might do some tricks, like you might actually raise it up a couple of decibels, like 1 decibel or something. So it might be
Hmm.
louder, but it's perceived that it's still cutting through.
Yeah.
Um, right. And if you know those frequency range and what you're competing with, you would go with the EQs, find those ranges, and like suppress them or kind of like a side chain to do that.
Hmm.
The problem with that is kind of like you kind of have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's contextual, right? Because
Yeah.
okay, if you're doing a track, you're singing an instrumental on a track that is only bass low ends, right?
Hmm.
You don't really have to cut too much up. There is nothing competing. But if it's
Hmm.
really full and there's a lot of things in there, then you have to figure out, okay, how I'm gonna carve through. You might have to use like a multi-brand compressor and have like
Yeah.
to go by sections. And like I want
Hmm.
this to like compress, but this to stay stable. But the reason I'm going through all that explanation is that all that was going through my mind when we were mixing. And I remember when we were doing that, you told me about one of the plugins, Wave Factory's Trackspacer. You're like, yeah, you don't have to do
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You just put it in there, and it figures out the frequencies for you. And if I put it on my different tracks, like side bust them into them, let's
Hmm.
say do all my instrumentals into one, and then do my vocals into the other, it will just carve exactly the frequencies it
Hmm.
needs without like overshooting.
Yeah, the
And
crazy thing was I used it for my kicks and my 808s.
oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
So I would use it to duck the 808 so that the kick will
Right.
pop through. Because when I
Right.
had the kick and the 808, the 808 was just eating the kick up.
Yeah.
Just
You
like,
gets
I'll
muddy.
take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets
So
really muddy, and
taking
yeah.
Trackspacer, I was getting that smack, but still getting the from the 808. So
Right.
I was
Right.
like, oh, I like it.
Yeah. I did not know about that when you told me about that. It was
Yeah.
that's like one
Yeah,
of my
man.
favorite.
Yeah. I use Trackspacer every time I touch my touch logic and I'm ready to start, making stuff sound better. Trackspacer
Right.
is always love Trackspacer.
Yeah. That's definitely one of my favorite. And the other thing I was mentioning in terms of actually setting up my sessions, because we were talking about how mine sound like a little more full than
Hmm.
your version, and I was saying a couple of things that I did for organizing. Like one, did use what's called VCAs, which is voltage control amplifiers. You pretty much kind of like pre-group, kind of like grouping, or pretty much like funneling certain sounds, and I group them or funnel them like by sections. Like I have one for percussion, so everything. It's kind of like when you're going to your final bus to
Yeah.
go out, you pre-split them, so everything bass will go into one. Then it goes
Right.
to the final.
Hmm.
Everything percussion go into one, everything like keys, like samples, like especially if you're doing hip hop, like samples and things like that will go
Hmm.
into one. Lead vocals, and I would do like synthesizers, like especially nowadays. That's one thing I remember back in the '90s. My biggest influence was like Wu-Tang and RZA. I used to love how he
Hmm.
he made his beats. I used
Yeah.
to think hip hop had to be samples, that you couldn't use synthesizers or anything. Now it's like so
Hmm.
different. It's
Yeah.
the opposite. But
Yeah.
because of that, now I have like a category for synths. Um,
Hmm.
but what's good about that one, it makes it easy at the end to when you do the final tracks to split them out into like vocals only, instrumentals only, like
Right.
performance version where it's the instrumental, but you have the backgrounds or like the hype man kind of
Hmm.
thing
Hmm.
going on, right? But also like for mixing, like if you're saying, okay, well, I think this is too much bass, you can just take that VCA and just lower it.
Right.
Uh, and what's cool about that effect is if as well as you could bust that everything into another bus and then compress that like crazy.
Hmm.
And with that you give it a lot more body, right? And
Hmm.
then remix that back to the original
Back
signal.
into it. Yeah.
So you get this transience, so you have like the dynamic range,
Hmm.
but you have like the fullness
Yeah.
with the parallel processing, like
Yeah. Yeah.
technique, right?
Yeah.
So I remember we were talking about that, and you're like, "Yeah, I wasn't."
Yeah.
you weren't into that as much. Like you didn't see
Yeah.
the
And I
point of like
got
it makes a difference.
do you use Distressor?
I not on this track. I do have it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I like
But
Distressor. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so like what are some of like the plugins you like to use on
Um
that you go to?
as far as, me beat making, I really like this plugin called uh Knock. It's called
Oh,
Plugins
you
That
told me
Knock.
about that, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. It's real dope because what it is what it seems to be is a clipper, and the thing that feel that I get the most from it is being able to, like a soft clip, and also, just some good distortion, some
Right.
good, that gives it some good color. So like I said, I'll use that on my drums mostly, and I'll even use it on other instruments too, but just where, like, lightly, where I can just get some distortion and a little bit of just some color,
Right.
besides of just the plain synth that was there.
Right.
That I just found Cradle, like my boy had told me about it, but I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, Cradle Schmadle, and not Cradle, but the God Particle. Cradle is the company that makes it,
Oh yeah, Godfather. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was
yeah.
just like, yeah, God Particle, Star Schmarticle, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I watched a couple of videos of Jason Joshua and watched him talk about it, watched him use it, and I watched a bunch of videos of other people using it and talk about it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. So they had 14-day trials. So I checked it out. Yeah, I got it.
Right.
Because it's just like this. It's like this two bus thing, but once again, you can use it on anything. So sometimes
Right.
I'll find myself using it on vocals because it'll give them a nice little sparkle, you
Right.
know, and things like that. But like I said, it's just another one of those plugins that enhances the sound but doesn't blow up your levels, you know.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because a lot of times it's so hard you want to do something, but you don't want to have to deal with the levels that come with when you
Yeah.
apply that plugin. So like I said, that's one of the good things I like about the God Particle too, is because it doesn't blow, it doesn't like just shoot your levels all over the place. Um,
Right.
what else am I using? And what else? But like I said, I mean, the other stuff is just kind of like regular, like, oh, this I think this sound good on my guitar, so I'll put it on and see if it could
Right.
be a flanger or a chorus or what's that, the spreader or whatever, just
Yeah,
things.
yeah, like
Like I said, I'll
clearing
just
wider, like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'll just experiment with stuff just to see how it sounds. Sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it sounds like a but
Right. Right.
that's the fun part. But like I said, man, it's just, I just like the accessibility of the box,
Right,
you know,
right, right.
because once again, like we both have been in analog studios,
Right.
and you're not just gonna walk out with an Avalon 737. You're not just,
No, yeah, exactly.
yeah, you're not just gonna walk out or just walking me, oh, give me the 737. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
But because of technology, obviously it's not the 737. But as you mentioned earlier, the emulations are so close that people are like, okay, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I'll
Right.
buy it. That's doing what my 737 is not doing, exactly what it does. But you know, if I had to use
Proximity, yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
If I had to use something that wasn't my 737, then I'd use that 737 plugin. So
Yeah, that's the thing, like you mentioned, you use like the stock plugins that are in there. Like
mhm,
even when I start out, like for example on my Mac, I have a Logic, right? A Logic
yeah,
Pro, but I usually use Pro Tools, just that's what I'm used to.
hmm,
So like all my plugins that I bought and all that are on that, right? But if I
hmm,
had to go mix somewhere else, and I don't have any of my templates that I have to build it from scratch, I know how to build them. In fact, I teach
right,
how to do that, but I
right,
always start off with stock first because
yeah,
because it will still work. It's just that it might be just clean or like sound
yeah,
digital,
yeah,
right? Which is not as bad anymore now because now we were in a digital age and people start off with that. So you're hearing more
hmm,
music with more clean signal. But
hmm,
because like you mentioned, we were from an analog time period, right?
hmm,
I know what it sounds like, the actual
Yeah.
hardware. So I'm like, okay, I try to emulate that process for example, like for all my input channels, I would by default put in like some type of saturation. If I
Yeah.
can mimic, like for example, there's like SSL like boards or consoles, or I like the Neve sound, right? So I try to find
Hmm.
plugins. I really do like the universal audio stuff
Yeah.
that I was using Wave, and they're still good. If I don't have
Hmm.
enough DSPs, I will still use Waves.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I use the universal audio stuff. But at least I like, for example, I use like Fairchild. I put it at the end
Hmm.
of my chain, so to make sure, and because the real hardware is like a $50,000 thing, right? So you
Yeah.
can put them on every channel now, but back in if I'm trying to emulate the sound that I knew that I grew up with, and that's my preference, right? Or like 90s, nobody did that because no one could afford that.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
had like a
But
unless you're Michael
here's
Jackson, you didn't have $1 million studio
right. But
to
here's
put
the
a Fairchild
thing.
on every channel, right?
Even if you could afford it, can you afford to tune the room?
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
you
Yeah,
gotta
right,
have to
right.
tune the room. If you don't have to tune the room, all that stuff means nothing because you're not gonna get what you think you're gonna get because your room is not tuned to everything that you have. So, like I said,
Right.
it's a whole bunch that goes into it that, once again, the box affords you
Mhm.
because of the, like I said, the accessibility of it. You know,
Right.
like I said, you can use that Fairchild plugin because you can, because you got your
Right.
headphones on or you got a nice set of speakers right in front of you, so you don't have to, necessarily deal with, having a perfectly tuned room,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like even my Pro Tools session in general, I generally mix through with Overtones. Well,
Hmm.
it's like the re-release version of Overtone, so I
Right.
don't think I've heard it. I even had to like, it's like old school. You had to buy like banana plugs and put it through like
Yeah.
its own amplifier and all that stuff. But it has no range, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it does have range, but I mean, it has no low end, no high
Yeah.
end. But the thing is, if you can make it
Yeah.
sound good on that,
Yep.
then it's gonna sound good like an iPhone or like a regular
Yeah.
car radio that's not like beefed up and
Yeah.
all that. So
Yeah.
then after that, I still use like Rocket 8s and
Yeah.
Rocket a 10 for like the subwoofer, and then I play it
Hmm.
on that. But if I know it mixes well on those,
Hmm.
it's probably gonna be good in a lot of scenarios.
Yep.
But we were having this conversation. I have headphones, but I don't really like them. It's supposed to be like mixing head. Yeah, it's supposed to be mixing headphones. I think you have
I have the
the same brand.
50s.
Yeah, I have the Audio Technica Studio phones, the HT ATH M40 FS.
Yeah.
You have,
Mine's
I
is the
think you have the
50 at the
50.
50s. Yeah.
I don't like the sound of it. I just never like mixing through
I,
those.
I like my 50s. I can't,
Right.
I can't even lie. I like them. And before that, believe it or not, I was using this pair of $35 Samsons, but they sounded so good, but they were open backed.
Right. Okay.
So if I went to do vocals, I had to deal with the bleed,
Ah,
because they were
yeah,
bleed, but
yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah.
really sounded good. I mean, for $35,
Right,
you
right,
know, like I said, I mean, they weren't like gonna compete with, some Sennheisers or anything like that, but
right.
still, for $35, I wasn't upset, so
Right, and but you were we were having this conversation, and I think last time we talked, I told you I take your recommendations seriously because right now you're batting 1,000. Everything you read, everything you recommended, I'm like, yeah, there was a game changer for me. So you mentioned now the headphones you're working with, the VSX,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
the
supposed to.
Stephen Slate, yeah.
So you're saying like that one like emulates like a tuned room, but it's in your head,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
They have like, they have one with an emulation of Mike Dean's studio. They have one of Stephen Slate has one in there where he actually uses an Oratone.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
they have
I,
this other
he
room
probably
called
has the originals though, the original
called
original.
NRG Studios. And
Mhm.
then they have another one called Echelon. And the guy was on YouTube in the studio talking about it,
Oh, really?
saying, how well, it was emulated in the headphones. And Mike Dean did the same thing. He's on YouTube talking about, how when he listened to VSX, how it
Mhm.
sounds like his studio, so
Right.
I was like, okay,
That
I guess he would know.
right. Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So because of that, I actually honestly I'm thinking I'm gonna pick that up and actually try maybe one of your songs. Next song I'll
Yeah,
try to
definitely.
mix.
Let me know.
I'll put it on. I'm gonna probably use Logic specifically and do it entirely on my laptop to see with those headphones to see how well it
Yeah,
turns out. Or
yeah,
you
I
tell
like
me
it.
like it's
Yeah,
garbage
yeah,
or
man.
not. I know you have a sample kit too that you released.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was on Native Instruments. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's it called? Electric something.
you can't even
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it though. Damn. Let me see if I can find my Native Instrument. But yeah, me and my man, this kid named Lazy Boy.
Hmm.
Me and him did that together. Once again, that was fun.
Right.
Because you don't get to do stuff like that. I've never did nothing for them before. So I'm
Right.
like, oh, what? Okay. It was cool. And then they actually had me make some, I made some um, demo tracks for the one that we did, but
Right.
then they actually asked me to make some more demo tracks for another release that they did. They asked me if I wanted to do demo tracks. I was like, yeah, so
Cool.
that was all right. I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yesterday I was messing with Udio.
Right.
Udio. Yeah. UDIO, whatever.
Right. That's the
It's
AI music generator
yeah,
thingy, right? Yeah.
yeah, there's two of them, right? That I've messed with so far. One is Udio and the other one is Lalaos. And what I've picked up so far is that Udio is better at making contemporary sounding things
Okay.
musically, but Lalaos is better at the vocal part of it. Like the Lalaos
Mm.
vocals are insane, bro. It's like this is not even this shouldn't even be happening right now. Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
That's
You
crazy.
know? And yeah, it is. I mean, just like the Lalaos does a whole song, a complete song, even with an ending. Like, what are you guys doing? What's it called,
Yeah,
man?
the technology, well, AI is so crazy. It moves so
Electric
fast.
Touch. That's what it's called. Electric Touch.
Electric Touch, that's your sample pack,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's an expansion for Native Instruments.
It's awesome.
And it's 50% off right now. So it's $25.
People
You
should go
know.
pick it up.
Yeah, but yeah, man, this is the music is so like you said, it's just it's in a whole different landscape now. The landscape has changed in a sense. It hasn't completely changed because music is still going to be music, but
Right,
now the way we get to music has changed. You
right,
know, because that's what me and my boys are talking about. So what's going to happen? Okay, eventually there's going to be a number one record that was all AI. It's going to
yeah,
happen,
yeah. It's gonna happen.
right?
I'm sure it's gonna happen.
And then my boy was like, so what are they going to do about like,
Who
tours and
gets the
stuff?
who gets
I
the
was like,
Grammy?
yeah, exactly. Who gets the Grammy then, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, there, it's just, it's 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 2024. That's what it is.
What is the tour gonna be like? That'll be
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
they'll just hire people.
Right.
A musician is gonna be like, I don't care what I'm playing, just pay me, bro.
Right. Crazy.
So yeah, yeah. It's just and like I said, I don't feel like some people are like, oh, I'll kill AI,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
just like, it is what it is, it's don't
It's
be,
here.
yeah,
It's
don't be scared.
right.
Don't be scared.
If you're not
It's
riding
just
the wave,
yeah,
you're gonna be
yeah.
like, under it, right?
It's just AI. Just understand it. Nobody's saying that you
Right.
have to use it. Nobody's saying that you have to do anything. Just make sure you understand it, so that you can know whether or not you're passing up on something. Because
Right.
you could be passing up on something that you have no idea about, you know. So just check it out. Find out what it does. Find out why it does it, and if it can or will work for you. And you never know. You
Right.
might be surprised.
It's also the world we're in right now, so you
Yeah,
might as well not be ignorant about it.
yeah. You might as well find out what's going on. You
Right.
know. Yeah, but I don't know. That's a good question. Who gets the Grammy? You
Yeah,
know,
that's
and
definitely
who gets the royalties?
yeah, true. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
How
if it's
how's that
all AI, like AI is the writer, AI is the performer, AI
right?
is where does all that money go? You know?
Yeah, exactly. There's a question I did wanted to ask. I do remember in a past conversation we had, um, in the past. I think this was during your recording days when you were still with Joe Public. I think
Uh-huh.
you were recording a song. You had a song you wanted to record, but you had to go to. I might be getting details wrong, but you had to go. You wanted to go to a specific studio just because they had an SSL board, and you wanted that sound. Do you know what I'm talking
Um,
about?
we usually record it at Quad. That's where we usually, and they did have an SSL, you
Right.
know.
And you like
So
that sound. Was that
yeah.
like specific? Right.
Yeah, no, I did like the sound. I did like the sound. You know, and we had a really good engineer back there. His name was George Karras,
Hmm.
you know, and he's, you know, another one of those like, you know, awards and makes some incredible stuff, you know, just like the guy that helped me with the song that I released, you know,
Right.
another guy that, you know, worked with Alicia Keys' name is Tony Black, you know,
Right.
and like I said,
Grammy
just
winner, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he has Grammys.
Right. So yeah,
but
you work
but a
with good
good
people. Yeah.
dude though. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
a good guy though. You know that on
Right.
top of that, you know, and and you know a lot of times that's not always easy to find. You know, good people who are also good at what they do and aren't like um their head isn't swollen about
The
what they do
jerks.
and how
Right.
good
The
they
not
are.
jerks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You know, yeah.
Right. No, that's cool. But I mean, like, yeah, it's I just wanted to point out because especially back then you would record at certain places
Oh
because of
yeah,
the sound you would get.
yep.
Um, even the project you're working on now, I did some of your tracks, and some of the other tracks you're doing are a Grammy Award winning people who mixed it or worked with Alicia
Hmm.
Keys, and
Hmm.
and I'm just saying that it's pretty cool that the tracks I mix, it's home studio using techniques that
Yeah.
I'm teaching, and it's somewhat of your caliber saying it's up there. It could get
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
comparable quality.
Yep. 100%, sir.
So
100%. I love making music. I can't stop making music. You know, like you said, you know, I did the Joe Public thing, you know, which was awesome. Um, Ended up playing guitar for Ride or Die for Jay Z. Ended up playing bass for Nas, featuring Ron Isley, believe it or not, with uh, Project Windows. So you know, like I said, things
right,
like that is just you know like you don't you don't think those aren't things you think about when you say, oh, I want to make it. You know, you're just thinking about I want to make it. You know, so when the Joe
right.
Public thing happened, great. You know, but then to get to work with other people and end up on their records too, that's just bonus. You know, that's just a bonus. So
That's
yes,
amazing. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would love to work with Jay Z
yep,
and Nas. So,
bonus.
particularly, particularly with your project, what was the problem you faced before you started working with me on your music projects?
So for me, you know, like I said, I had never really been concerned with mixing, you know, because I just want to create, you know. So, but once you're in the box, you kind of got to do it, right? Because you're in the
Right.
box now. It's not like before, like I said, coming up back in the 90s, there's an engineer. So we went in, we made music, we sung, we played, we did whatever. And then the engineer took over, you know. But like I said, in the box, it's not like that. You're the engineer now, you know.
Right.
And then that's when I realized that I am not an engineer. You know, you think, you know, when you do it, you think it sounds good and you think you're doing good. But when you start comparing it, you go, mine doesn't sound like that. I don't,
Right.
What are they doing? Why does theirs sound like that? Why does mine sound like that? And why is it so loud? And why is mine so not loud? And, just stuff like that. So you start saying to yourself, all right, I can't. Okay, let me just start figuring out somebody I can call, right? Because that's what it comes down to. Because most smart people, right? And I'm not including myself in that. Most smart people, when they can't do something, they go, well, let me find somebody who can do it. And I will pay them to do it because I want what I have to be good, And that was my thought. Let me go find somebody who is good so that I can hear what I'm trying to hear, because I can't bring that sound to myself, currently in my knowledge of soundscaping, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Not sound design, but I just couldn't, I didn't have the knowledge, the experience, the ears for it. I didn't know nothing about mixing a song, I should say. Besides levels, right? And
but you knew
little reverb and stuff like that, but nothing like, like, all right, we're gonna do this. That much compression, not that. Move that over. Take that. Drop a little lows right here. All right, bring us some highs right here. None of that. There was none of that. Yeah.
But you knew what you wanted the final sound to sound like. I mean, like you worked with you were part of Joe Public, so you were at the highest level competing with Michael Jackson. You topped the chart, so you knew what professionals sound like.
Exactly.
Being against Michael Jackson. Exactly. Right? So, but back then, like you said, you had an engineer. Now.
Yeah, and you think, and you think, oh, I could do that. That's what you think, but no, it's not. Right. It is not.
Okay, and why did you choose to work with my services specifically over any other option available?
Well, like I said, me and you had talked, and when you told me that you did it, I was like, what? How did I not know this? And so I was like, okay, I got to start somewhere, I have to start somewhere, so I was like, all right, let's go. Like my thing is, I don't ever think that somebody can't do something because I've never seen them do it, or I don't know them to do it, because how do I know? There's only one way to find out. And so that's how I was like, all right, let's do it. And then that's when, we started collaborating, and I started sending you the stems and stuff. And, and like I said, when I was first getting your stuff back, it showed me, like from the first listen, obviously we had notes and stuff, but from the first listen, it showed me that you knew what you were doing, and that I was like, okay, all right, this is a good choice. Because I could hear that you knew what you were doing, just because, like I said, I know what it sounds like. I just couldn't make it sound that way. That's all.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've learned back in the day, I used to mix back in my college analog, and I used to mix for like BD Man used to come through the studio. And it's funny, dance hall, artists would just go on anything, right? It's not like they'll feel about you in the studio, there's a track there, they'll just lay it down and they'll mix it and put it out, and some of them don't even remember that they've done that. So yeah, that's how our conversation happened, right? And you're like, how did I not know this? And I mean, I was in the past, right? But you still mix. And the thing is, nowadays as well, is back then I couldn't do anything unless I was in the studio, because you had to have the analog equipment. Now you could do it on your laptop. Anyone can do that.
The box, man. Welcome to the
box. So, was there anything in particular about my services that really stood out to you? Why do you think it was so effective?
Because it sounded like what I expected to hear when I did it, right? When I did it, I expected it to be like, yeah. And I was like, no, but, like I said, when I heard your stuff, I was like, oh yeah, see? And I think we talked about it, I talked about how, how yours was just, it filled up, it was full, mine just didn't sound that way. Mine sounded a little, just not full. I mean, it sounded like what I knew, back
Right.
then. That's exactly what it sounds like, and like I said, in hindsight, I understand why it sounded that way now, but then I had no clue,
Right.
but like I
Right.
said, even your stuff helped me to get better at that,
Right.
using that as a target. Like, okay, well, if it sounds like this, then I know I'm in the ballpark somewhere, so.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was I think definitely helpful because one thing I did love working with you is because your notes were very precise, which I'm not surprised. I mean, you're from the industry, right? So yeah, like even the little things you notice, like yeah, could you turn up one decimal of this? Like I want my kicks to be a little more punchy and all that
Hmm.
because of again this matter of taste of
Yeah.
like the ratio and balance of things like that. But even when we talked, I heard your original mix. I knew where you wanted to go with it, and I
Hmm.
was saying, oh yeah, you're missing a little more warmth in this area
Hmm.
or like it's a little getting a little muddy in this part and
Yep.
and I explained what I did different than yours and I
Yep.
think it helped it helped
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Definitely.
that, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. Because, like I said, when you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So, like I said, and that's why I said before, I don't ever think somebody can't do something.
Right.
My thing is, okay, if you say that's what you do, let's see. And
Right.
there's one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it.
Right.
So like I said, luckily for me and unfortunately for me,
Right.
it was more than I expected because like I said,
Right.
I didn't know, but like I said, you because of what I've done before, I know what it should sound like.
Right.
So like I said, it was surprising and I was happy that it sounded as good as it did because like I said, I wasn't sure,
Right.
because I mean me and you never worked together. So,
Right.
and like I said, I was just like, wow, okay, all right,
Right.
okay, okay, all right, Dwayne.
And as a result of our collaboration, what was the outcome of your music projects?
My music projects, those haven't been released yet. I haven't released those songs yet. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
just released that one song, and like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't know. I've been thinking that maybe I will just like do. It's so hard because the music's like the state of music is so crazy now that
Right.
people are like, do not release an album. Don't
Yeah,
do it.
that's yeah, people
Yeah,
don't release albums
yeah.
anymore.
They're like, do
It,
not do it. Just release a single and in 2 to 4 weeks, release another single.
yeah.
2 to 4 weeks, release another single. Do not. So I don't even know, man. It's so the business is so like what?
Red is different. It's
Yeah,
funny because
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I heard Prince say this in an interview, saying like it's weird because he grew up in the era of albums. You know, he
yeah,
made a body of work
yeah.
that's congruent and the representative, which is the same era
Yep,
you grew up with, right? So it's
yep,
definitely
yeah.
definitely different, right? Like
That's how it
you
was.
put
You
in
put an
stuff, yeah,
album out, yeah, and it's not like that anymore. Like I said, it's so like I'm like when I'm watching people who are releasing music, I'll be like, I say, oh, it's a new 2 Chainz just released a new joint. Let me check it out. It's kind of hot. 2 weeks later, 2 Chainz just released another. Wait, he just didn't he? What about the 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks
right,
later, 2 Chainz just released. I was like, damn, that's what
right,
it is, and that's just what it is now. Like I said,
yeah,
it's just
different landscape, yeah,
yeah, it is. It really is. It's a totally different landscape. So like I
right,
said, it's hard. Like I said, it makes me go, I don't know. I don't know. I'll
right,
see. I don't know, but it's kind of encouraging because of the one thing I did release, and I got like 20,000 streams. I was like, oh, that's not bad. So if
right.
those people
Yeah,
liked
without
it,
really
right,
promoting anything,
right.
yeah.
If those
So
people liked it, and I released something else, at least those people will listen. So hopefully, I'll get another 20,000 and maybe a
right,
little more. So like I said, I don't know.
right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I
pretty
don't
much
know.
like you have songs like in the top right now. It's just mainly you're just figuring out
Bro,
what to do with it. Yeah.
I have so many songs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So where do you think you would be right now if you hadn't taken action and decided to work with me on these projects?
Um, I would probably still be trying to figure out. I would either A, found someone else to mix it, or B, I would still be trying to learn how to mix. And like I said, that's a whole nother thing, right? Mixing is
Right.
it's just a whole nother thing. You know, like there's the creation side of it, the
Right.
production side, the you know, playing and making everything. But mixing is it's a whole nother beast, you know. And like I said, as I'm learning about that now, and once again, I kind of contribute that to working with you because of what I heard, and I was like, I'm trash at mixing. so, so you know, like I said, I will probably be learning, hopefully better, which I think I am. I think I'm better than I
Right.
was back then, you know. But like I said, it would have sent me down the road only because of how I am. You know,
Right.
I'm more of a, all right, I guess I got to do it. You know,
Right.
and then that's when I'll go, okay, time to sit down and start from the bottom and work my way up, you know, so that I can understand what I'm doing, not just do it just to be doing it, you know, and not just oh, I'm an engineer, because that's another thing. I see so many people be, oh yeah, I'm an engineer. And then you say, all right, let me hear something. It's like, oh man, that's not good. That's actually
Yeah.
not good. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, it's again back then, like in the '90s and whatnot. Everyone you had to be in the know. You had to be in the
Yeah.
right people. Had the right equipment. I was fortunate enough to. That's how I learned. I was
Hmm.
taught. I was mentored with analog, and then
Hmm.
and did lots of tracks and worked with artists beforehand. And then now everything's in the box. Everything's digital. Now that all that means it's accessible, and emulation now, the technology and emulation now is so good, it could sound pretty close to the original analog. But
Hmm.
that doesn't mean automatically you're good. You still have
Yeah.
to know how to
No.
use it,
Yep.
right? That's the thing. So yeah, anyone now you could just go and get like Logic on work on your laptop. But
Yeah.
if you don't know how to use the tools or what they're for or why they exist,
Yep.
and like how do you get the vocals to cut and have
Yep.
clarity with it and not muddy up your sounds and like stay within and make space and create landscapes,
Yeah.
soundscapes
Y-
with your music,
Exactly.
right?
Because that's another thing about, you know, like when you're kind of YouTube surfing, right? And you're like, okay,
Right,
let me find this and find this and find that. Another thing that I think sometimes is not taken into consideration is the actual material, right?
right,
Just because somebody is tweaking a kick, you don't have their kick.
right,
So those tweaks may not work for you, you
right.
know. So like I said, it's just this thing of understanding that, okay, I understand the concept. So now let
Exactly.
me see if I can apply it to what I'm doing, as opposed to I'm going to do exactly what that person did. Mine doesn't sound like his. I wonder how come, you know. And like I said, I think once they figure that out, it kind of, you know, it kind of helps, you know. And I went through some of the same processes of, okay, they said do this, do this, do this. That sounds like, you know.
Right, right.
And that's when I noticed that, oh, you can't just do that, you know. Understand what the concept is and understand what you have and how to make that work for you. And it might not even work for you. Whatever that person
No,
is doing, it may not even work for what you want, you know. So
that's that's why you mentioned it, and you're right. And I can take an example of us working together is that you definitely have to. It's contextual. Like
yeah,
depends
yeah,
on the context you're in, depends
yeah,
what you're working with, and depends because there's no necessarily right or wrong way to mix. To me,
yeah,
mixing is
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
cooking, right? If
Do it sound good.
right, yeah, exactly. It's true. It's exactly
Yeah.
that, and like if you go to different cultures in cooking, right? Everybody has like chicken and rice, but you could
Hmm.
tell different ethnicities or different cultures by the way they prepare it, right?
Yeah,
Not that it's bad or good, it's different,
yeah,
right? So if you're saying, hey, I want to do it this style, then you're going to prepare it a little differently, right? The same
yeah,
thing when, like you said, when I first gave you my mix to you, we didn't have any initial notes of where we wanted to go,
yeah.
right? So then after the notes you gave back, it wasn't, oh, the mix was garbage. It's more of, I like to hear more of the punch in my kick. I want that to be more predominant, right?
Hmm.
I'm a bass player, so I want to actually hear the plucks of that, right? But
Yeah.
like so now I'm trying to take into account those notes of okay, you have like four different things competing in the low end, and you
Hmm.
have at the same time you want the bass to cut through. So how could I do that based off the notes and based on what I'm working with, right?
Hmm.
And that is not oh, let me look up a YouTube video and
Yeah.
look at the settings and like, okay, let me
Yeah.
go down to like 300 hertz and just
Yeah.
take the cue and push it up. Like it doesn't. It
Yeah.
depends on what you're asking for. It depends on the scenario and depends what else is there.
Yeah.
But if you understand the concepts and what's happening, you can manipulate and navigate through that scenario.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I did enjoy that process because a lot of it were challenges because you like you have 4 bass sounds down there and you
Yeah.
wanted to cut. How am I gonna do that? You know. But it was fun. It was fun.
Not my problem.
But it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so for anyone watching who's on the fence about joining this program and learning like how to mix, what would you say to them?
I would say if you don't know what you're doing, Dwayne knows what he's doing.
Right.
You know, so don't be like, oh, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. So don't waste time and money, you know, trying to make something happen that you can't make happen yet. I'm not saying that you won't ever be able to do it, because maybe one day you will. But working with Dwayne, not only will he get it done for you, but you will also learn from him. So don't be shy.
Thanks a lot for this.
Oh, no worries, bro.
But we definitely should talk more often. And
okay, yeah.
Just now I know you. Now I know you play Street Fighter. I do play Street Fighter. I play
a little bit. I'm not great. Right. I'm just don't expect a great fight.
Right.
Do not expect a great fight. Just expect to say, "Oh man, you tried, man. You really tried that
It's
time."
okay.
Just say that.
If you want to stop wasting hours setting up your mix sessions from scratch and finally get to the creative part faster, take a look at Music Mixology templates. With it, you'll get ready-to-use mixing templates for Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Cubase, Studio One, and Ableton Live, designed using only stock plugins, so you don't need any extra software. Just drag and drop your stems and start mixing immediately. And the best part? Not only will this streamline your workflow, but it also comes with the Music Mixology series, walking you through the exact setup so you can recreate it in any DAW in the future, giving you full creative control over your sound. Get instant access now and start mixing like a pro. I remember when I first started mixing, it was frustrating. Every session felt like I was reinventing the wheel, wasting hours just setting things up before I could even start the real work. I knew there had to be a better way. One day, I realized that producers and engineers at top studios weren't setting up from scratch every time. They had templates. They weren't stuck tweaking basic settings over and over. They were focused on the mix, the sound, the energy of the track. That's when everything changed. It's easy to keep doing things the hard way, but the people who take action are the ones who get results. If I hadn't started using structured templates, I'd still be stuck in the endless cycle of session setup frustration. So, if you're serious about saving time, improving your workflow, and getting a consistent professional sound, grab Music Mixology templates today. Even if you don't get it, I encourage you to do something. Find a way to streamline your process and set yourself up for success, because at the end of the day, great mixes don't happen by accident. They happen by design. If you are interested, visit ProAnywhere.com/music.